Welcome back to What's Next with Lacey, the podcast where I interview a variety of young professionals about their career journey so far. This week, I sat down with Kate, a social media manager at a beauty company. What struck me most about our conversation was just how many different skills and responsibilities are required of a social media team for a brand. Yes, you absolutely have to be creative, but it's not just about making that content that we all see. It's also handling and strategizing the image of the brand or the marketing of the brand and so much more. It's definitely very impressive work. It's also very much a growing space, and Kate has some excellent advice on how to get your foot in the door and make your mark. So take a listen, and I hope you enjoy my conversation with Kate. Welcome to What's Next. Thanks so much for having me. I feel like a lot of people are going to be very interested in the work that you do. So let's get to it. You are now a social media manager for a beauty company. So what does that entail? What are your responsibilities on a day-to-day basis under that title?
I feel like a lot of people think they know what a social media manager does. They're like, oh, anyone who's young can just totally do it. So it is interesting. And I'm actually talking about, what I actually do. Currently, I had to check my resume to get the overview of what I actually do. So I plan and manage all of our daily posts on all of our platforms. So like whether that's through a content calendar, sometimes I'm just winging it, to be honest. And my baby though is our TikTok channel. Like I really own that one. Whereas our Instagram and other accounts kind of are more of a collaboration with other team members. And then also community management. It's like going in the comments, responding to people, the DMs, which is a whole beast because there's a lot. And something else that I really like that's part of the job is like identifying influencers and content creators for us to work with and kind of managing those paid partnerships, which can be very fun, can be very hairy, but it's really exciting when you can make something come to life. And then a lot of it too is the content in the content calendar that we end up posting, whether it's finding existing things to post, but then editing them down, or using the content that we got from the creators, or literally shooting and editing things myself. So it's editing that. And there's so many nuances that go into that, like the music that we use for a video. It's like working with the library and literally searching for songs that kind of sound like the viral one and then editing it. And then whenever we have like a fun kind of PR event or opportunity, if there's influencer events, I'll kind of go as like the photographer. And so I'll like capture content and then hopefully turn that into some TikToks and Instagrams and Reels.
A lot of skills are required for this job. You are kind of fully encompassing a wide range of things. So then what does a day look like for you? Are you mostly spending it working on content? Are you also doing a lot of meetings? Are you working collaboratively with your team, the rest of your team? How does your day look like?
Yeah, every day is very different. I would love to have more time dedicated to content and the creative work, but there's a lot of meetings and a lot of team members, internal and external, that like we meet with. So honestly, sometimes it's a literal full all day offsite meeting with like our internal digital team and the big media agency that we use. And it's like whole, like, honestly, like lectures, which is like kind of fun, but like then that kind of eats a day. Or like a learning session with our partners at like Pinterest or TikTok. Like they'll come in and like tell us what's new and what we should be doing lately, which is also really fun. And then sometimes it's literally like back-to-back meetings with the marketing team telling us, we need to post about the new launch, or the retailer team telling us we need to support the certain stores selling the new launch, or the global team, saying that we need to support, the new trending looks for the season. So it's a lot. And there's a lot of people with a lot of ideas about social media, which I think, we all can attest to because we all feel like we know it so well. And so it has been sometimes hard to just like rein back into the strategy a little bit and kind of go forward. But it is really fun and there's always something new. So a day, I literally didn't even start telling you about the day.
No,
I'm like,
I love
this
it.
is what all the days could be.
Fascinating.
Yeah. So I feel like most people, my day starts with emails, and a lot of the emails that I end up responding to are through our PR agency. So this is an agency that we use to manage our influencers and also like our press and any like PR events. So they're the ones out kind of like pitching for press to talk about our products, sending out the products to influencers, hoping they post about it and all that kind of stuff. So I'll work with them because I'm on the brand side from a social media perspective. And if we're going to do a mailer and we're going to gift people something else that kind of goes with the product, hoping that they post about it because just our product's not that interesting. Like I'll help like review, what we're thinking of sending them. Or if we want to work with a bunch of influencers for the new launch, I'll kind of work on filling out like a brief to then give to the agency, and then they'll come back with the idea of influencers, and then we'll kind of talk about it together. But it's like I'm kind of involved in like briefing them. What do we want to do?
Yeah.
Who do we want to work with? What do we want them to post about? What do we want to make sure that they say when they post about it? And then I'll also have to work with our marketing team, because from a social perspective, I could be like, oh, let's do this like fun, cool thing. And then marketing will be like, no, they need to talk about the product and they need to talk about this benefit. I'm like, oh yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
So it's like meeting with them and then getting back to the PR agency and like filling out that brief, which is honestly a lot. And if we're doing like a PR event, I'll kind of help review like the invite list of like, oh, we should invite this influencer. She's actually in town. She's not usually based here, but she is in town. So we should invite her to this event that we're hosting, whatever, and kind of go through that. And then just being part of a giant company, there's always so many internal people to kind of get back to. And sometimes there's really large like content requests, like, oh, the company wants to share like best content practices, or what are your top reels or influencer? I don't know. And so I'm just kind of compiling a lot of that and getting back to people, or just collaborating with other brands in the building because it's such a large company, which is kind of fun. But then it's just working with other people as well. So that's just the emails.
Oh
and
my
then
gosh.
And then we go into the meetings. People are like, oh, social media is so easy and fun and cool. It's like, well, there's a lot.
There's a lot to it. No, absolutely.
It's so much, but it is like a lot of it is so fun. So I don't want to be too much of a hater. But so then, of course, I have all those emails with the PR agency. I also have a lot of meetings with the PR agency, which I do prefer to the emails because a lot of this stuff is very like collaborative and like a lot like a good conversation, and it is kind of creative. So I do kind of prefer the meetings to go like that. And then similarly, also have other meetings, whether it's like with my boss or with the marketing team or my other coworkers usually it's like they're my management, the marketing team who like manages like the products, the other marketing team that manages like the retailers, and the global team that kind of manages like the overall like brand vibe, for lack of a better word. So it's all those people that I'm working with honestly on the daily. Wow. And then our internal like digital marketing group, I guess, that they kind of help lead all of the social teams from all the brands of the company. And so it's dealing with them a lot too, to make sure we're following best practices, adhering to the latest trends, and doing stuff that we should be doing with new rules. Yeah. And like with other social media teams as well. And like with legal, like the legal will come and do a new presentation like, hey guys, FTC rules are different now. Yeah. Now if an influencer is posting a video about your product, they have to say like, I'm partnering with X to promote this product, like out loud, which is a new rule that wasn't a rule before. And then, so that's meetings. And then when I have a free moment, it's editing content and posting. And it's funny, I feel like being at such a large company, that it's hard to find the time because it is a creative thing, and you kind of need to like sit alone for a minute to like truly like edit a video and, and make different versions. Like the Pinterest version is going to look different than the TikTok version. It's going to look different than the Instagram version, going to look different than the paid Instagram version. So it's just a lot. And so we'll do that. And then, so that's just organic social, but then I also manage paid social. So not everything we post, we're necessarily going to like boost it or like run it as like an advertisement, but a lot of stuff we do. So our media agency is the one that's kind of like pushing out our social content as like ads. And so they'll ask us like, okay, we're going to run a bunch of like boosted TikToks or boosted Instagrams. Like, can you give us the content by this date? And so I will kind of take a lot of our best performing like organic videos, stuff that's really been popping off on TikTok, or stuff that like I'm like contracting like an influencer to create. Like, I think this will be really good to boost. So it's kind of editing that and being like, okay, I think we're going to boost like these two videos be really good. Like this influencer piece would be good. This other piece of content that we have, write like the captions and the headlines and maybe edit them a little bit. Like, oh, it's for TikTok. I should be shorter than that. Let me just give it a quick edit. And then deliver that to the agency so they can run it in the ads. And of course, it's a very long process because they like have this whole like worksheet to fill out of like paste all the links and fill out the things and should the comments be on. And it's like stuff that you like, it's easy and simple in a way. It's just very time consuming.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the content itself and then like sharing it out and putting it into the ecosystem. So
gosh, there's so much to it that I think people don't really realize and recognize. I feel like people, indeed, you hear social media and they're just like, oh, you're posting on TikTok all day. But no, there's so much more than that. And like, this is a strategy. You are like almost in a strategy position, making sure that this all works and this all looks good and this is all successful.
Yeah. It's
very impressive.
It's crazy. And I've seen it on other podcasts too, but you know, you can have a strategy and be like, this is, you know, what we should do on social. This is how it ties into PR and our influencers. It kind of all wants to tell like a cohesive story. And then someone else in the building will be like, no, you need to post about this today. I'm like, okay, I had a whole plan, but no problem. Let me just stick that in there. No big deal. I'll just have to shuffle everything around.
I've seen that a lot on social media. Social media people responding, things like that, people who are coming in who don't know how social media works and don't know that this does require a strategy, just being like, can you post this today? And can this happen today? And blah, blah, blah. And like, actually post like 10 times a day because that's a good idea. Like, I've seen a lot of social media about that.
It's crazy. I've loved following the Instagram. It's called Work in Social, they said. It's very good.
That's hilarious. Yeah. I love those kinds of accounts. For entertainment, it's agent versus assistant.
Ooh.
That one's stellar, I will say.
I should definitely follow that one. I also love following Make the Logo Bigger.psd. It's a meme account about like creative designers and like the struggles they go through, I'm sure, with, you know, people, because it's funny, even our marketing teams will be like, oh, we want an influencer to post about this. Yeah. And I'll do it. I'll be like, here it is. Here's what, you know, we want it. They're like, actually, no, why don't we do it this way? Like, can she wear a blue shirt instead? And I'm like, no,
that's not
we
how
can't
that
tell
works.
her to do that. And so it's kind of working with those personalities and the nuances of like, and that's why that definitely not that brief takes so long. Cause I'm like, okay, we can only say 3 things about this product. The influencer's only going to say probably one of them.
Wow.
What will it be? Yeah. And then you have to speak now or forever hold your peace because, you know, in this world of influencers, they're not a creative agency, right? They're like, we pick them for a reason, for like their personality or their style. So there's only certain things we can edit and go from there once we give them what to say. So that can also be a very interesting dynamic. Yeah.
No, totally. So given the amount of work that you have, I mean, it feels like this is like a 24-hour, I mean, especially because social media can be a 24-hour thing because people are on social media at like very random times and all times. So what are your hours?
So typically I try to stick to 9 to 5 as much as I can. I really do. But we always say social never sleeps. So, you know, it does include posting on weekends. That's just how it is. Luckily on my particular account, we are kind of shared by our global team and the US specific team that I'm on. So the global team will handle posting in the morning and the US team will handle posting in the afternoon. So it's just once a day. Okay. Which is great. Still kind of a lot, but just once a day. And then honestly, the good thing is TikTok doesn't have to be every day. So I only post TikToks on weekdays. I'm like, if I don't have to post on a weekend, great. Yeah. Don't have to. That's the best practice, whatever. And then Threads too. I'm just like, I'll just stick that to weekdays because it doesn't need to be on weekends.
Yeah. Wow, interesting. Yeah. So then indeed, also, you have talked a lot about your responsibilities, but what do you think are the main skills that you are using on a daily basis?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of communication and organization and getting back to people and a lot of that kind of managing up and communicating between, you know, it's communication, I guess, with a lot of people because it's whether it's from my boss, from the marketing team, then to my team, then to the PR agency, then to the influencer, then back to us, then to it's just, there's so much that goes into it. And I'm lucky, like I don't have to put a lot of our content through like a million rounds of approvals. I think that's one misconception that people have sometimes about social media roles is that anything that ever gets posted must have been approved by 100 different people. It's like, no, sometimes we can just post stuff.
Yeah.
Or other times it is a really big deal and maybe just a couple people are looking at it, but it's not like there's 100 million people that have a say in what goes out there. Otherwise we would never get anything done.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say communication is probably the skill that I am working on the most in this job because there's so many different people and different, what do I say? Stakeholders. So many different stakeholders.
Yep. That's very fair enough.
But I do get to flex my creative skills a lot. A lot of it is whether it's shooting content myself or literally editing videos, which is something that I honestly like to do in my spare time anyway. So I do find that like a little fun. So that's definitely like the creative side of it. And the rest is honestly just those good old corporate communication skills.
Yeah.
Building a deck. It's not a PowerPoint, it's a deck. And sending emails.
Yeah.
And trying to, let people down easy when we can't do what they want.
I feel like what's so crazy about your job is that you have like the baseline, just like indeed corporate level requirements, but then adding on top of that, like a creative job.
Yeah.
That's wild to me. I think that's just like so much responsibility and so much to handle and so many aspects that you have to be so good at. It's very impressive.
Thank you. I know. I didn't really consider myself like a creative, like the same way like the creative designers sit on the floor. I'm like, oh, I'm not one of them. But in a way, I am.
Yeah.
Just I don't consider myself like, like an artist or whatever. But so much of the job is like truly creative.
It is.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so interesting that you feel that way. I mean, on that note, you are a bit of a content creator yourself on the side. So do you think that has helped you with your job now? Do you think that is like a necessary thing to kind of have as like a side gig to do a job in social media?
Yeah, it definitely helped me. I think, especially to work in a field like this, you have to have a deep understanding of it. I think because you're going to be talking to a lot of people in management who never posted a TikTok in their life and they don't understand, that certain things. So I think having that understanding really helps and being able to kind of show expertise. And I think honestly, the reason I got this job was because 2 days before the interview, I got 3 million views on a TikTok and for the other beauty company I was working at. So I got to kind of say that. And I think, it definitely helps with like, not clout, but like it helps people like see that you're actually good at creating the content. But to be honest, I know a lot of companies are working with in-house people who are content creators in their own right to just churn out content on the reg. And I think that job would be very exhausting. Like I'm glad that creating content isn't like my full-time job because like you said, it is creative. It is so much work. So sometimes it is kind of nice to have a break and be like a corporate girly for an afternoon.
Yeah.
Just like, let me just answer some emails. Like, I don't have any ideas for TikTok right now. Like, I'll just, do that.
Yeah.
But yes, I think if you want to do social media, you have to have experience in it, which is good because you can start your own social media experience any day you want. So
Yeah. No, absolutely. Hi guys, it's Lacey. Thank you so much for listening to my conversation with Kate so far. If you are enjoying this episode, please share it directly with one friend, family member, colleague, or whoever you think might find this episode interesting. I would really, really appreciate it. Now let's get back to the episode. So you are currently a social media manager, but you have kind of risen in the ranks in your time at your company. So what do you think you did in your field and in your work that has helped you grow at your company?
Yeah, so I was actually hired as just a community manager. So that truly was just to respond to all the comments and, keep us kind of afloat in that way. And then I kind of turned it into more of a content creation role, more of an influencer role. The good thing about, I think, my company, and I think a lot of companies are probably like this, is like if you're good at something and you like doing it and you just start doing more of it and it works well, like no one's going to say like, oh, don't do that. They're like, oh, thank God someone's helping out here. Like take it and run. Yeah. So I kind of just started doing more and more. And I think just with the ever-growing social media landscape, like we didn't have a TikTok channel when I started. Now we do. I started it. And that definitely helped me get promoted, kind of showing what I'm doing in addition to the job description. So that's definitely helped me rise in the ranks a little bit. It did take a while. It was 2.5 years before I got promoted. And I remember being very salty at the 2-year mark, being like, what's going on?
Yeah,
Because it was
totally.
something I had like discussed with my boss at the time. Like, I think after 1 year or a year and a half, she was like, oh yeah, definitely want to work on getting you promoted. I'm like, okay, great. Yeah. Because here's what I was doing when I started. Here's what I'm doing now. Here's the difference. And I made sure to bring that up at every single possible review, every meeting. Of course, her boss left. We got a new VP. So I'm like, okay, now I got to convince this new boss, like, look, like I really like have been doing so much more than this role. And the thing is that my company, they always say it's like promotions come after you do the job of the promotion, which I know yeah. I don't even know what to say about that. But I'm like, yeah, here I am literally doing the job. Like, I'm technically, assistant manager, community managing, but I'm creating content. I'm launching the TikTok channel. I'm working with our influencers, working with our PR agency, I'm doing all this stuff. Like, I deserve this promotion. Like, there's nothing you can say to like negate the fact that I'm doing like so much out. Like, absolutely. I'm doing this bigger role. So,
yeah, no, that totally makes sense. It's annoying when companies do that, but I feel like keeping track of what you are doing and what times you are going above and beyond is such an important thing to do in order to advocate for yourself and have it like here verbatim, this is exactly what I've been doing. So I think that's excellent advice for.
I know I need to do more of that.
Yeah. I mean, everyone can always be doing more. Everyone can always be like advocating for themselves more.
I have heard I just got a lot of TikToks about this, about like women in the workplace and certain things, and how some of the advice is like, you need to advocate for yourself and ask for this and ask for that. I saw one TikTok though, and it was like, actually, a lot of times women are not rewarded for that behavior. There's like in the same way men are.
Interesting.
Sorry, this is just one TikTok. I have no other advice. Like,
no, but that's an interesting
color to add to that.
To take. I mean, and also, sadly, wouldn't surprise me if that were true.
I know. So it's like you want to advocate for yourself, but you don't want to be like too crazy about it. Which, I mean,
I know.
I feel weird even talking about this.
Misogyny in corporate structure that's like, no, don't go outside the box. But no, I do agree with your point though, that just like, I think keeping a tab on what you've been doing, like no one can call you crazy for that. No one can say you're advocating too much. No one says you're pushing too much. If you're like, well, here's what I've been doing. Yeah. And you can see that result coming through. Yeah,
I'm literally doing this. I know one of my mentors told me like, at the end of every week, every Friday, write down what you did that week and 3 like wins from the week, and then keep it to yourself. And then, but like, have it in your back pocket when you need it. I haven't done that. I really should. It was great advice.
That is great advice. Yeah. No, I feel like everyone should be doing that.
Yeah.
Gosh, good to know.
Personally, honestly, I feel like that might be kind of nice.
Yeah.
Like, in your social life or your life.
Yeah. Just like, it's kind of like a gratitude journal of like, this is what I've been doing well.
A gratitude journal of why the corporation should be grateful for me.
Yeah. Exactly. No, but actually though, I love that. You touched a little bit on this in terms of simply the fact that your company didn't have a TikTok channel and now it does. I mean, social media has grown so much in the last, 5 years? Like, I feel like even insane. That is like a long amount of time. So do you feel like that makes your job more difficult because you don't know where the field is going to go and you just don't know where the boundaries lie? Or do you think that's actually makes your job better and more fun for you because you're like, there's so much to discover. There's so many new ways that we can take this field.
Yeah, I'm kind of neutral about it. Yeah, it's definitely good and bad. Sorry, I was like in a trance when you were asking me that question because I was thinking back to this time when you were Be Real came out, and someone at the company at the time was like, you have to hop on Be Real. Like, we need to get on Be Real. Like, as a brand, like this is important. I remember sitting there thinking like, no, we freaking don't. It's not a place for brands. It doesn't make any sense. And I can't post from Be Real on a Sunday night, like, or Friday night, like certainly from the brand's channel. Like, absolutely not. There's just no point, no strategy, but like, I'm just hearing this from someone very powerful and I kind of have to do what they say. Yeah. And I was put in a position of like, if I say no, it's not a good look. And it was a little disheartening at the time because I'm like, okay, you hired me as a social media person because I know what's going on. And like in my gut, I'm like, Be Real makes no sense for us as a brand. But I wasn't necessarily empowered to share that in the way that I think, I don't know, it was a bit of, I'm like rambling, but it was just like a really tough situation for a second. And like, we didn't go on Be Real at the end of the day. And not to say I told you so, but like, where's Be Real now?
I was actually just thinking,
Who's
I
using
haven't
it?
been getting my like notifications to post my B-Reels recently. I don't know whether that's because like the app's just disappeared off my phone or whether it died.
We're not real anymore.
We're not real anymore.
So that was a good, like a bad thing about social media, like growing. I'm like, oh God, there's this new platform. It doesn't make any sense. Am I gonna have to waste all my time working on it now? Like, that's crazy. Or there's a good thing. It's like, okay, like, yeah, TikTok launched and like now that's a big part of my job. That's part of why I got promoted. And now, and it's something that like does make a lot of sense. So I think like when there is a new platform that everybody's talking about, to understand it, to try it out, to have expertise, and then to have a point of view of like, this is what I think we should do from a brand perspective. Like that is honest. That would be really good advice, I feel like, to anybody, and like to have, to just like, to be able to kind of advise from a social media expert stance. And hopefully people will listen to you. That didn't happen in my case, but it all worked out in the end.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, you may as well go down the road to understanding where this field is going and understanding the new platform, but like you don't have to utilize every aspect of it.
No, you have to be strategic. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to touch briefly upon your personal journey to this role, to social media in general. So starting off with what you were doing before you arrived at this company, you were working at a different beauty company, but just generally in the communication side of things. Is that correct?
Yeah, I started, so out of college, I was a PR intern for this other company. And then I eventually got a full-time job there as well. But it was really mostly PR coordinator intern stuff. And it's funny, I didn't think I wanted to get into social media because, being a young person in 2018, everyone's like, you should do social. You should do social. Mm-hmm. Everyone wants to do social. I'm like, this is too good to be true. There's no way. Like, I don't want to do this just because everyone says I should. But then I kind of found myself hanging out with the social media team at that company and helping them out and like talking through ideas and like getting interested in it. And so I kind of fell into helping them out more with social media because I realized I actually liked it. But luckily it was so deeply entwined with my role there already, just from the PR side. Like, I kind of told you earlier, a lot of what I do at my job now is PR related to with like the agency and influencers and events and press and things like that. So
is that what you were handling at that kind of side of things is what you were handling at your old company?
Yeah. And I would say the corporate term, the very hands-on keyboard kind of way, like tactical, very much like literally building an influencer list of like, okay, we're launching a new product. Here's who we should send it to. We should choose her. She has this many followers, mm-hmm. and coming up with certain things for that and like literally sending out product to editors. Oh, this People magazine is going to write about this. Can you like send her the product? I'm like, okay. And like, I would spend hours a day just like sending out products, like physically myself. Yeah. So it was fun. I loved it. I felt like I was in the Devil Wears Prada. My first day on the job, as the intern, they're like, oh, the CEO left her new Gucci bag in the Plaza Hotel. Can you go get it for her?
Oh, damn.
Hell yeah. I hopped in a taxi on the corporate card. I was like, I'm here to pick up.
That's so funny. You liked that?
I felt like I was in the Devil Wears Prada. That's why it was like kind of like cosplaying for me. And then of course it got really old really fast.
Yeah. I was about to say, because I was like, when I was an intern, I was doing similar things and I was like, I will say I hated it. I was like, the runs that they made interns do in the entertainment industry, I'm like, why am I going to pick up your dry cleaning? Why am I going to get this piece of equipment from the other side of town, or like a prop that you're not even going to ultimately use?
Yeah.
So I know someone has to do it and you have to start somewhere, but I was always like, it loses its shine pretty quickly.
So fast. I know. I'm like, I thought working in the beauty industry would be like all like cute outfits. I'm like, I should be wearing running sneakers.
Yeah, exactly. That's honestly how I felt as well in entertainment. So then you mentioned that you liked social media and you started working with that team, but what did ultimately encourage you to make the switch from this side, the PR kind of side of it, into the social media side of it?
Yeah, it really was because I started like figuring out that I liked it. And I'd really wanted to work at this new company. It was something that I was really interested in and kind of doing on the side in the beauty space. And I'd met some of the people working there through, like, I would be helping out like backstage at fashion shows, and I would meet some of the PR people from this new company, and I would start connecting with them and be like, oh, I would email like every couple months, like if anything ever opens up, like hire me, but in a much more professional, nice way. And then so eventually when this role did open up, they thought of me, and I, not to brag, but I didn't even apply. I just interviewed. I just got an interview request like, hi, this role opened up. Like, this girl that you know recommended that we interview you. Can you talk tomorrow? I was like, yes.
No, that's great. But that also goes to show I am a big proponent of networking.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is honestly the biggest key to finding your job, to finding your career path. And I think ultimately in this day and age, I think that's where jobs come from, is from networking. So it's good to know that indeed also in the beauty industry, it also helped you. And it was also important for you to stay in touch so that they are reminded that you are looking, that you are interested. And it wasn't just like a one time, oh, she was like there, but you were actually interested.
Yeah, that's what I think helped me the most, is following up every few months. And that's how I got the internship to start with too, is because I had met someone at the company, got her email, and I emailed her every few months. And she was like, we don't really have any internships right now, but like, I'll let you know. Followed up later. She's like, oh, we actually might have something now. I'm like, great.
Yeah.
So I think that's something people kind of forget, because I take a lot of coffee chats or like informational interviews from people wanting to get their foot in the door at the company I work at now. And it is like a one and done, and people forget, and inboxes get crazy. Yeah. And so I think if someone did follow up a few months later, I'd be like, oh my God, yeah, wait, she was actually so perfect. Like, let me see who else I can connect her with or something.
Absolutely. And often people think that it's like cutting corners, but in reality, it's just like, again, it goes back to advocating for yourself and going after what you want. So very good to know. I know you were talking earlier again about the social media side of the job you were at previously. But before that, did you have any exposure to like social media roles? I mean, granted, again, like we had discussed earlier, it was still so new, but what was your first exposure to this could be a potential job?
Yeah, it's a great question. It was not in my mind at all. All I knew is that I wanted to work in beauty, and I wanted to work in New York. And that was it. It was like, as long as I get something in that range, like I'll be happy. But your question did make me think I was working at my school's fashion magazine. It was very small. It was, shout out Northeastern University, the Avenue magazine. And we would like do little photo shoots for that. I would like help run the Instagram for that. You know, nothing popped off or went viral or anything, but it definitely was something that I think was fun and kind of helped me in that area.
Yeah. That you
not directly, but
enjoyed doing. And you were like, oh, wow, cool. What internships did you do? Did you do internships in this space, in this kind of beauty space? And what were they like? And did you learn from them a lot of skills that then have ultimately helped you now?
Yeah, I definitely would say yes. So the way my school was set up was that you did 2 co-ops, at least 2. And so I did full-time 6-month internships in New York both times. And so the first time was at this salon in Soho, and I was kind of like the brand coordinator. It was a very like Instagram salon. Like back in the day when Instagram was still really big, they had like almost 150,000 followers, which was a very big deal for like a salon at the time. I feel like you don't really see that. So I would help them with different things in their like content production and kind of like honestly working the front of house a little bit too, which I loved. And that's funny. That's how I actually met the people that I then interned with later, because they came in to do a collaboration and I was kind of helping with that social media collaboration. So just stayed in touch there. So kind of just making sure to network at like literally every corner.
Yeah.
And then the next internship I did was with kind of through those people, I met it was with a beauty blogger at the time, and she kind of needed an assistant. She had a very small following, and while I do think I learned a lot, I actually cut that internship short to 3 months because it just wasn't sustainable for New York. There wasn't like, I didn't make enough money. Yeah. And I also we were like starting to not like butt heads a little bit, but I felt like my advice wasn't necessarily being taken in a helpful way. And so I didn't really think there was much more. Like I really wanted to learn from her, and I was, but I don't think we were learning from each other in the same way. And for such a one-on-one internship, I was like, you know what? I don't regret it because I'm so happy where I ended up. But there was another internship at like a legit PR firm to be a PR intern, like at a real company. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I wonder what if I had like went for that job instead? But I know it all worked out.
No, definitely. I totally get that though. The one-on-one close relationship, you have to work well together. Otherwise it can be it can be a problem. So no, that makes total sense. And then you mentioned college and you mentioned your time on your magazine, but you also majored in marketing. So do you think that was useful? Do you feel like you use skills that you learned in your marketing degree, or do you feel like anyone studying anything can go into social media?
I would say yes. Anyone studying anything can go into social media. I don't think if you're a biology major that like this job is totally cut off from you and you're never going to be able to get into it. I do think it helped me. I was a business major, the focus in marketing, and then an art minor because I liked art. But I don't know. Like I feel like now the way social media is going, like I spend so much time editing on like CapCut and like things on my phone that like I didn't need a class to learn. Like it's just something I was able to learn on my own. So. But sometimes I do wish I had a communications major because I feel like that would have definitely helped me a lot more just in the corporate world and all of the different emails and presentations and presenting in a room full of important people. Yeah. So that's definitely something I wish maybe that I had done, but no regrets. And yeah, I think social media, you can do it from anyone in any major could definitely go into social media if they wanted to.
It is almost time to wrap up. But before I let you go, as I always end my podcast, I would love to get some more advice from you. So first and foremost, what is your best piece of advice for going into social media?
Oh, God. I think, advice for going into this one's actually really hard. This is something I say about the industry that I'm in and the specific category of the products I work on. But I also think it applies to social media that if you're not into it, if you don't actually like doing it, I think you shouldn't do it. I think you should have some sort of like real interest in social media. Otherwise, it's going to just be too grueling and too like just not enjoyable. And it's something that is so crazy and growing and nuanced and people above you won't understand it. Like I think having that love for it will definitely help you, and not having that love would definitely hurt you. Yeah. If that makes sense.
No, totally. No, absolutely. That's excellent advice. And then specifically for you, what do you think is the best career decision you've made? You've talked about some of your regrets in the past, but what do you think is the best decision you've made in your career so far?
I think it was following up with the people that I've met like every few months. I think that like looking back, that's why I'm here. That completely changed the game. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, it is excellent advice and it really does make a difference in navigating your career path.
Yeah. Oh, I do have some other advice to share that I've like heard through like from other people, like my old boss and whatnot. She would always say like, find your expertise and own it. And then people in and out of the company will be like, oh, she's great at XYZ. Like we know we can go to her for this. Like she's the expert. And I think that is something that definitely helped me a lot. Like I'm kind of known now as like the TikTok girl, and that helps me in my career. And literally is the reason why I got promoted and all these things. Like it ties in. So it's kind of like establishing that expertise. And she also said that perception is reality, which is good advice. Also a little bit of a bummer in a way, but
no, I love that.
But when it comes to work and social and corporate, perception is reality.
Yeah.
No, that's all the advice I got.
No, that's great advice. I love that advice. That's all very, very good to know and very useful. Final advice question for you. What would you tell your younger self who is about to graduate and go into the working world? And that can be career specific. It can be just navigating the working world. What would you tell your younger self?
Oh, I truly like remember so vividly like being this younger self, like sitting in my apartment, applying to jobs in a frenzy, wishing I could just fast forward, literally thinking like, oh, like I know I'm going to get a job. I know it's going to work out, but I'm just not there yet. And I just want to fast forward and skip this because I know we all know how horrible like that stage is, and it can happen again at any moment too. So the advice I have to her is honestly just like something I learned recently, which I shouldn't have really learned it recently. It's so obvious, but the people that you come into contact with never truly go away. And sometimes like whether it's a bad experience with someone like, oh, thank God I don't have to work with them again. Yeah, you do. You will. They're going to come back. Everyone comes back. Everyone you've ever met, you're going to run into them again. Maybe it's just because New York feels so small sometimes, but
definitely.
It's, always act knowing that you will encounter this person again. And not to say I like burned bridges or anything, but I think at some times I felt like, oh, that chapter's closed and it's reopened. So I think it's just always keep in mind that like you're like, what am I trying to say about like networking? Like your network is your network.
Your network is your network. And as my mother always says, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all. And I think that is so true. You have no idea when you're going to meet these people again. Like, and also what's said in the entertainment industry is be nice on the way up, otherwise you're meeting them on the way down. Like,
oh, I love that.
That is very big because there's this whole culture in the entertainment industry of just being so cutthroat and mean to anyone around you. But it's like, no, if you're nice to the people around you, like you'll help each other get like up and we'll all go up together. Otherwise, at some point when you hit your downfall, these people are just not going to help you rise again. So I think that is excellent advice that like just be nice.
Yeah. When I left that first job to go to this company, I had rubbed a lot of people the wrong way because I left very abruptly. You think a 2 weeks notice is normal. But
that is entirely normal.
It was actually crazy. They were like, no, since you're going to someone in the same industry, today's actually going to be your last day. Like, yeah, get your affairs in order.
Way.
Yeah. Yeah. So I had to leave that day. And honestly, that my boss at the time like sat me down and said that I like did her dirty, that I like kind of left them without someone to like rely on and all these things. And I felt so shameful. And after that, my new company, I'm like, oh, well, thank God, like the people I disappointed, like I won't, have to deal with them anymore. And we've all stayed in touch. And it's actually become a beautiful thing. And maybe not that one boss, but like so many other people from that company who I was so afraid that I disappointed and like really let down. Now we're still in touch and we actually get to work together and do certain things together still. So it all that was like a positive version of that. Like, absolutely. Oh, your network, like people stick around. Even if you think like, oh, I left that job, I left that company, I'm never seeing those people again. We kind of left on a bad note. They come back. And sometimes it can be great.
And sometimes you can rectify that situation. Yeah. No, for sure. But gosh, that's crazy. 2 weeks notice, that is the point that you are supposed to give 2 weeks notice.
I felt terrible. And I was kind of expecting 2 weeks of a paycheck.
Oh, well, exactly. Oh, gosh, companies weaponizing paychecks. That's a conversation for a whole nother time. We'll have to dig into that next time. But finally, for you, Kate, what's next?
That's a great question. So currently I'm on the US specific team at my company. I would really love to move over to a global team where it's a very similar role in terms of social and influencer, but from a strategy perspective, you get to be a little more creative on the brand side and kind of come up with things and just be a little more involved from product development to just kind of take a step back. Whereas now I feel like I'm very focused on like sales and retailers and like immediate trends and things. So I'm hoping to move over to a global team. I've been talking to HR, fingers crossed. So we'll see what works out there. But,
cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on, for telling us all about your career so far. Lots of exciting things. And I definitely learned a lot. And I'm sure our listeners will too. So thanks so much.
Thank you so much.